Well, hello and good morning to the Resident Podcast News Review with me, Carl Munson, Natasha.donn, lead writer over at the Portugal Resident, and our special guest today, Paul Rees, is back from central Portugal with a slightly dubious Wi-Fi connection. They say the fiber's good in central Portugal, Paul. Is this true?
Generally, yes. It's probably where I'm sat.
Oh, okay. So you're in a...
If you can hear me, I will carry on.
We can hear you. I think Paul is in a not hot spot, but we will persist because this is live radio and we're keen to hear the news pick that he's chosen. We've got a rather tragic story from you, Natasha, this morning about a woman in childbirth refused entry to a Faro hospital. We'll go deeper into that. I'd like to talk about AIMA's interesting industrial action that happens next week, which extends a shutdown of their services for a total of 9 days, as it turns out, what with one thing and another. Yes, and Paul is kicking us off this morning with landfill. Talking rubbish, I think, Paul. Expanding Algarve landfills will not solve waste crisis, Almager. This is a problem for human beings generally around the world. What's going on in the Algarve specifically?
Well, it's not a problem. It's an output, and it's you then treat it. And there's a huge dichotomy, if you like, between... Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, you can. Sorry. There's a dichotomy between the way Portugal promotes itself as a green, clean, fresh air, beautiful beaches, etc., holiday destination that people do respond to, especially if they live in a grimy city in Germany and are looking to book their 2-week holiday. And the reality, which is highly seasonal rubbish production because of the tourism in the Algarve, if we stick to that region, and how it's still, and it's one of those things that can be swept under the carpet. And Portugal doesn't just sweep it under the carpet, it creates enormous landfill areas and just doesn't bother to pre-sort. There's a degree of bio-waste, but if you look at the figures compared to the rest of Europe, Portugal, despite its image of clarity and fresh air, etc., it's one of the worst performers. I mean, it's right down there, as low as you can get, and it's always been the case. It's never taken it seriously. And the waste disposal, Natasha will remember when a former government official, I think a minister or deputy minister, was in charge of importing rubbish from Italy to landfill.
Italy, and goodness knows what. It was coming from the mafia.
Wow. Yeah. My goodness. Why?
It was full of awful things, including, he said, it was full of chemicals and it was going straight into landfill. And he was sort of saying, oh, nobody's told me there are any chemicals. And somebody said, well, didn't you see all that asbestos? He said, well, there's nothing wrong with asbestos. I mean, he was completely another appalling choice as a minister. But, this is what characterizes Portuguese politics. They put their friends in.
Yeah, extraordinary. And it's, well, we've got plenty of valleys we can dump it in. Well, yeah, we've got plenty of valleys, but if you're promoting Portugal's valleys and hills and waterways as beautiful and safe and come and walk and come and breathe, to really no attention at all to recycling and landfill, it is deeply pathetic. Look at other countries, see what they do, and do it properly. And if you run it at a loss, it's probably still financially, if it's a loss.
Yeah,
in terms of image, you'll gain so much. If you could have a stamp of approval saying we recycle 90% of what we can, rather than 30%, which puts you right at the bottom of the EU charts. It's just such a wasted, excuse the pun, opportunity, and especially on green economy and bio waste. Yeah, of course we produce. I mean, every household no longer has a pig. That's how it used to happen. But now the bio waste can be turned into. And even in a village I lived in the centre of the UK, used to have a. a delivery every year to every month in every village. Lorries come around and dump not manure, what do you call it? Recycled bio stuff. A great big pile of steaming, wonderful stuff. Everybody used to dig into their allotments. I mean, that was pretty good, wasn't it? And if they run at a loss, it doesn't matter because everybody loves the council. So that's my rant on Portugal. It's not excusable to be right down there at the bottom of the league when you're not an industrial nation. It's tourism that produces the peak. Just deal with it and turn it into a positive.
Very interesting, Paul. Very interesting, and it confirms a fear I've had that despite, I mean, we've been, as a nation, we've been able to create quite the picture, haven't we? Of like, almost 50% energy efficient. The hills are adorned with windmills, and the valleys are adorned with solar panels. You can't go down a street without encountering some sort of recycling waste facility, or be woken up at 2 a.m. with bottles being collected. So all of the frontage is there, isn't it? The facade of recycling is there. However, what you seem to be saying is after it's been collected, it's just unceremoniously dumped in some beautiful valley somewhere in the back of beyond, like fly tipping, but on an industrial scale, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly this.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What's the right way to do it? Who's doing this well? I suspect the Germans are.
Probably the Swiss.
Yeah, I think you got to look at Northern Europe, and you got to look at how they invest and what their processes are, and just pick from the best. We're part of the EU. Just ask people. You know, you got Brussels and Strasbourg milling with people in suits. Just find out what works. Do it. Yep. Apply to the EU for a whole new plan. You know, I'm sure somebody else will pay for it, which Portugal will love because they never pay for anything on their own. And just do it right. And if you do it right, the volumes will go up, and you'll start to earn money from recycled products, and you'll start to earn money from the energy. But the benefit in terms of tourism and image and appeal are immeasurable. Well, they should be measured, but only guessable at this point.
Which connects with another research innovation. Thanks, Paul, for that. You're definitely food for thought, and the waste products that come from it thereafter. But it connects to, I think, something you wrote about, Natasha, the Volta system. Paul, have you been collecting all your plastic bottles to take to the supermarket to get 10 cents, the money you already paid when you first bought the water?
I'm sure I would, but I don't buy water in plastic bottles.
Wow. I actually go out of my way, Carl, to get a bottle of water that doesn't say Volta, because this whole Volta thing. No, but I go out of my way because in the supermarket they have different waters, and sometimes the woman says, "Oh, this one is a Volta," and I go, "Oh, well, let's put that one back then," because it's so utterly stupid. We've got recycling already. Everywhere. Why are we doing recycling in these blinking Volta things? But as it was, I'd already bought 3 bottles while I'd been doing dog walks that she said, "Oh, but those are Voltas." And I went, "Oh, blinking hell." So I went to the machine that we have in the bowels of Intermarché in Algesur. I stuck the thing in, it took these bottles, and it gave me a frigging little ticket for 30 cents. And I thought, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted 30 cents. I don't have to go to Intermarché now and spend money, because Intermarché for me is just full of plastic food.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
So I'll have to get dog treats or something at Intermarché and remember where this little piece of paper is.
We did have a similar, I don't know, poor experience. It does feel quite manipulative, and it's also, as some of these issues do, it's created an ideological lightning rod sort of reaction, of ideological political reaction. With the, did you see the stories about far right water?
No.
Okay, so apparently, if you over a certain size, you don't have to take part in the Volta scheme. It's for small single-use bottles, which are the worst offenders. I mean, I think we're united on that, aren't we? The horrible waste of single-use plastic is crazy. But
we've got all our recycling bins, and people put them.
And for sure. And you would think that's taken care of, and you wouldn't need to be manipulated in this way to take it back.
I know.
However, I think it's 3 liters is the threshold. And one company, I think it was Penacova, were talking about forgive me for not having the exact facts correct, but the gist of it was over a certain size, you didn't have to take part in the scheme. So they were talking about making a bottle slightly over that size, so people wouldn't. Yes, this appeals to you.
Super. Anything not to take part in the scheme. Because I hate the scheme.
It attracted the title Far Right Water, with it sticking it to the green agenda in that way, which is, it's sad when it's got to that stage, but hilarious at the same time as well. So there you go. That's the link will be on the screen for you. Expanding Algarve landfills will not solve waste. Almagé. People are protesting quite rightly there. Fly tipping on a grand scale, made worse by tourism, of course, because there's a massive peak. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it, to see in the Algarve, for example, when the tourism is at its peak, the collection points for household waste just expand, don't they? Hugely. It's a massive pressure on resources and collection at those times of year. And it sounds like Paul's absolutely spot on. We need to have a better system for dealing with that at those times, and a more efficient and environmentally friendly way of dealing with all that waste. Thanks, Paul. Excellent to have you back here. Natasha, this poor woman in childbirth, refused entry to Faro Hospital. What happened here?
Well, it was so funny. I mean, I say it's funny because, you're sitting and you're writing all the news. This one came up and all I had playing in my head was the Benny Hill music. So I put I put a link into the story with the Benny Hill music, which is so funny because it was utterly ridiculous. So this woman goes to Faro Hospital. She lives in Faro. Her waters have broken and she's having a baby. She goes to Faro Hospital and they go, "Oh, you haven't called the SNS hotline." I said, "No, my waters are broken. I'm having the baby." And they said, "Well, you can't come in here.
Having a baby.
You haven't called the hotline. We have a system here in Portugal."
Okay.
So they said, "You have to call the ambulance." So this poor woman is sitting in a hospital and she is forced on her own mobile phone to call an ambulance.
Oh, poor love.
So the ambulance comes, lovely guys, and they check her over and they say, "Yeah, your baby's coming." And they said to the woman in the hospital, or whoever it was being so incredibly officious, "Listen, our baby's coming. The waters are broken. She needs to be admitted. Just make an exception." And they said, "No, we can't make an exception. She hasn't followed the protocol. And anyway, today we're not the hospital that's, so-called on duty," because they were just on duty for internal emergencies. And I think, pregnancies with complications. But this woman was there and the baby was coming. And they said, "No, absolutely not. You have to go to Portimao." So then they waste all these resources. They've already called an ambulance. They've already wasted everybody's time. An ambulance team has had to check her over. Then the ambulance has to drive her 70 kilometers using petrol and presumably, money.
Dear, oh dear.
To Portimao, where she is admitted. And thankfully, everything goes well, mother and baby are fine. But it's just such a disgraceful way of treating people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Why do you think this occurred? I mean, this is one of those sort of computer says no moments, isn't it? But
it's utterly ridiculous because the thing in the old days, having been here for so long, there were systems. I remember there was a system in the very old days where fathers couldn't go to the birth. And I remember that when my son was coming, Pedro said, "Well, how am I going to get in? I need to see it." And they said, "Well, if you go up the laundry exit, we won't know." So we all went up the laundry exit. I went up and Pedro, and I was, heaving away. And we ended up having it, we got it round everything. In the old days, people were lovely and they just let you get round all the ridiculous rules. Today, they seem to have gone bananas with rules. And I don't know why. And of course, they've said that they're going to look into this with great rigor. Again, it reminded me of Benny Hill music. What are they looking into? They're looking into the fact that they behaved like absolute tosspots.
Right.
They did. I mean, the reason I chose this was because on Facebook, I don't know why, but a lot of Portuguese influencers pop up on my feed. And there's a lovely woman who's terribly funny because she delivers everything deadpan. And she just could not believe what had happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you don't treat people like that.
No. This is the apex of human, not suffering exactly, but this is a life or death situation, isn't it? Literally.
Well, no, it's not just that. Having a baby is meant to be a beautiful experience.
Yes,
it's meant to be one of the best days of your life. I mean, I know everybody says, well, my wedding was the best day of my life. But a lot of people think they're having their first baby or whatever, or even their third baby was a wonderful day.
Yes.
And so to make it full of stress like that seems so mean.
Yeah, absolutely right. And what lovely days where you would be taken via the laundry exit to get.
That's how we got in. So my son was born with his father. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then Pedro fainted, which is what they all said at the time. They said, oh, this is why we don't like fathers coming into the births. But he only fainted for a little brief moment and then he got revived.
How beautiful. But they could just let him collapse on a pile of laundry in the corner where he was quite safe. That's amazing. And it sounds very Portuguese to me as well. It's, there are rules and there are workarounds that are acceptable.
There should be workarounds, but these days everybody is so disappearing up their own backsides to trying to fit in with protocols and the way they are expected to behave, that somebody just, completely lost all humanity.
Perhaps, and I don't mean to be making excuses for the person, but there is a greater pressure, of course, in the health service. Not an excuse to treat people badly, but I think they're all under pressure. Is this a sign that more of public services are disappearing up their own laundry exit, as it were, and we're entering the phase of which we might be familiar with, from other countries? Oh, it's health and safety. Are we moving into a different era where that humanity, compassion is being trumped by bureaucracy and spurious sort of concerns like the computer says no, the system says no, or it's against health and safety? That's a bad point for society.
Probably, because if you think about it, if everybody these days is relying more and more on AI, which, doesn't show any kind of feeling, they probably justify themselves for their appalling behavior because, the computer's told them this or the system has told them that. It's just not on. That's not the kind of world we want.
And a rigorous inspection. Does it look like this gentleman in the picture looking away with the this looks like Homer Simpson disappearing into a hedge to me. Is that what a rigorous inspection looks like?
Well, no, I just put that photo in because I just thought it was rather sort of funny because the whole thing was ridiculous. The whole story was ridiculous.
Agreed. Right. And well played on the Benny Hill music. And we can give appropriate credit. It's Boots Randolph, and it's actually called Yakety Yak, which was made.
It's lovely, isn't it?
You can't fail but have it bring a smile to your face when you hear the Benny Hill theme tune. Again, a different age, and not the most popular comedian on the planet right now. But who knows what might happen as the wheels of history turn?
Exactly.
Might find himself in favour again. Who knows? Paul,
I want to know what they called the baby and whether it was appropriate to the situation of its birth, his or her birth.
Poor little thing. Well, presumably, we don't even know. I had a feeling in this story that there was something else to it, because most Portuguese people do know the system. So it's very possible that it was not a Portuguese person. So it's very possible that something else was playing into this horrible treatment as well.
Yes, and that's a really good call there, Natasha, to know what to do from a Portuguese point of view and not just the law or your assumptions of where you come from. By this point, it's great to have a Portuguese best friend, isn't it? Or somebody who will be with you and advocate for you in these very potentially stressful situations. And we should say all was well that ended well. And the baby might be called Benny, as far as we know. If the mother's read your piece, little Benny's doing well, as is the mother. Right. Okay, and we send them love and our best. It's very important to point out, actually, that the baby was born successfully, well and healthy, and that story ended well. Not so much with AIMA then, and I need your counsel and input on this. Both of you have been in Portugal a lot longer than I have, and we have AIMA who seem to be, I don't know if the right phrase is taking advantage of a situation. As a public service announcement as well this week on the Portugal Resident News Review podcast, we can tell everybody that there's not only a general strike next week, I believe the 3rd of June, there's a public holiday on the 4th of June, which you could say was quite good timing, isn't it? If you're going to strike.
Oh, they always do that. They always do that.
That's what I wanted to know from you.
They always make sure that they create as maximum damage.
It's called bridging, is it not? And this probably is the absolute art form level of this particular type of strategy. So AIMA have seen that there's a public holiday and a general strike, which leaves 3 days, working days of the week. So they're striking for those 3 days, which if you include the weekend before and the weekend after, that's a 9-day shutdown. And if you've had a bit of a slowdown on the Friday before the first weekend, and it's going to take a while to get back into business on the next Monday, that's quite a break to efficiency, is it not? But normal, you think?
Well, I mean, they do. I think in many respects, AIMA's been handed such a bum deal.
Yes.
Because it basically was created and then it had 400,000 old cases just dropped on its head. And there weren't that many people there. And then obviously everybody complains, everybody's queuing outside AIMA, there's people punching each other, police are called. It's a disaster. So of course, if you're working at AIMA, I'm sure your enthusiasm to go to work is very low.
Yeah, I think
and they probably thought, come on, let's give ourselves a nice 9-day break. I mean, the weather's fantastic. Let's all go to the beach.
Yeah. No, I think Natasha's absolutely right. We forget the other side of the coin. You know, we read a lot about the queues and the punch-ups and it's much in the press. And you forget that the other side of the screen are people that have got kids and families and they're trying to do their job. The problem, fundamentally, it's a management problem. You know, if all the staff are having to go on strike because they're under so much stress, okay, they've picked a very convenient long period, which is traditional. Obviously, learned that in France, I think. But behind it all is the lack of resourcing, the lack of management. Yeah, and they were created and they had a big backlog, and the backlog was politically created through legislation and through some of it's post-Brexit, some's golden v. Yeah, there's all. Well, it's slightly different, but there was a known problem.
Yeah.
And you remember both when there was a problem with driving licenses being issued. What do? They got the new machines, they trained the people, and very soon the queue that I remember in Faro was curling around the block reduced to a manageable level. The technology worked, everybody's happy. Now, if I need a car document up, you know, those the livret you get now, the plastic card, they turn up in less than a week. I mean, the whole thing works far better. The same could be done with AIMA. It's a management problem, and moreover, it's a political problem because the politicians deliberately have not resourced this particular ministry, and then then evade and lie about it and become evasive, and it all filters down to the person. So that the Maria sat there who's thinking, "Why do I put up with this every day?"
Quite.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, and funnily enough, somebody wrote to me the other day and they were complaining that they'd put all their papers in and that somebody had queried a paper and asked for another paper. And I said, but this is actually what they are almost instructed to do, because they are being told basically by the politicians, just delay as much as you can, delay. Even if you can delay to the point you put somebody back to the start, then of course the new laws will affect them. Because at the moment, according to the president, the people who've got all their applications in shouldn't be affected by the new laws. So the new ruse will probably be to say, you know what, your application here, yes, we've had it for the last 2 years, but you know, there are quite a few things missing. You'll have to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
And I think that's the next thing that's going to happen.
And the new members of staff are being trained to do that very literally as well, aren't they? It's a checklist approach, and it's as though you lose your place if you haven't got everything right. And the administrators, the new ones, seem to be doing it in that very mechanical way that was the problem with the pregnant mum. Is, you know, this is how it is. There's nothing I can do about it. There's not much discretion or compassion at the front line. But this is a terrible way to manage migration, isn't it? It's just to make it really difficult for everybody concerned at the front line. That's an awful way of dealing with the problem.
Terrible.
Well, it's also it's this dichotomy. The government really wants nice white people to turn up who've got money.
Yeah.
And what they don't want is a load of illegal fruit pickers living in porta cabins in Odemira. So they all have to be dealt with under the same immigration rules if you're outside the EU. And that's the problem. That fundamentally is the problem. Portugal, on one side, knows it needs a labour force that it doesn't have. And it knows there's illegal immigration. The other side, they see the politicians are very aware of all the street shots in Lisbon, especially, where you've got lots and lots of people that aren't white milling around looking like they're doing nothing. And that's the problem, because politically, Portugal is very conservative and doesn't want awful people coming in here, raping our cattle and stampeding the women. And because it all has to be dealt with under the same law, this is the problem. So politically, it's extremely easy. Not to just let everybody in, but to speed up the process would be extremely simple to do. But they make it difficult deliberately. And everyone gets caught up in the same mushy process. So there's the political side and the practical side, and there's a yawning gap, actually, between the two. And that's what's created the problem. And the politicians can lie about it as much as they want, but fundamentally it's based on a problem that is exacerbated by prejudice.
So you could say the only people it works for are the politicians, because it doesn't work for the fruit picker who wants some livelihood and to have a job in Europe to improve their situation, perhaps. It doesn't work for the white collar migrant who's facing big delays and being treated quite poorly and thinking, well, I'll just go somewhere else. And it's certainly not working for AIMA, who are taking this industrial action. And they're saying the government has not taken effective measures to guarantee dignity, stability. And, I was quite moved when I read it like this, because you can take that sort of, the sort of social media view, can't you? Oh, get back to work. This is terrible. They should be helping people. But you miss the fact that they are not being treated with dignity, stability, and a recognition of the roles as migration technicians, as they call themselves. And the government's failed to implement promises assumed in the past, which includes, presumably, when all the noise was being made about migration, not many politicians would say, not only all of that, but also let's make the process streamlined, effective, so people know where they stand with this. There's not been much talk about that, has there? As there hasn't been with, for example, with the detail of it. We've got the new nationality citizenship law that includes a citizenship test, a cultural test. But no work, as far as I can tell from talking to lawyers about this, no work has been done to implement or even develop a test of that kind. They all just said, yeah, we must have that. And nobody's done anything about it, whilst the law is about to be applied in this country. So, yeah, the only capital being made, perhaps, proactively, positively, is for the politicians themselves, unfortunately. So, on the one hand, we do wish the AIMA workers, the migration technicians, well and an improvement in their circumstances. But this is a massive break in service.
It is. Let's just hope they have a nice time.
Yeah, absolutely. And can rest and recuperate and then come back to the job to better conditions. Mel's saying here, totally agree, AIMA is mismanaged. They can also decentralize some basic tasks to ease the load. It's not as if technology couldn't help this, is it?
Yeah.
It is about management and political will, it would appear, Paul.
Yeah.
Yesterday, for an example, I went to my Flexia Espaço de Loja to renew my driver's license. They lodged with IMT, no appointment needed at central busy IMT office for a basic task. I'm assuming you got the sort of service Paul's talking about, where these things can be streamlined. There's no reason for them not to be. And Welsh Jackie here also. What's it like in Wales with these processes? I wonder, Welsh Jackie. That's our 3 news picks there then, and the links to them. The links will also be in the sleeve notes, as it were, of this episode. Thanks, Paul, for being here. We should also extend our public service announcement responsibilities to the hot weather. I see in our native UK, it's almost a national disaster. The temperature has risen. The weather maps are red hot. It's like, and to be fair, there have been some fatalities as a result, because it's been such a sudden change for people. But perhaps a little bit of an overreaction from the media. How is it here in Portugal, Natasha, generally speaking? What's your advice to people dealing with this hot weather here?
Well, just be sensible. Obviously, you go out early morning. When it's boiling hot, you stay in. Probably shut shutters to stop the sun beating on the windows so that the place is cooler. And when the evening comes, everybody goes out again. Release the hounds and off you go.
Release the hounds.
Well, that's what I do, because you see, my dogs are actually all lying under tables in this heat, going, "Oh my God!"
Yep,
but as soon as the last night we were in the forest, they were in the barrage, and they were having a lovely time. They didn't
work with nature. Work with nature, not against it.
You've got to reorganize your day. Obviously, for people who have to rush across cities, and leap into sandwich bars, it must be very hot and bothersome. But luckily, I don't have to do that.
Yeah, very good. So be sensible. The advice as ever, a call for common sense. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, walk in the shade, park in the shade. Yes. Keep the shutters shut, and it switches. Natasha's right. It switches from. I'm now up at sort of 5 a.m. and potter around until it gets really, really hot, and I'll have a lunch and an hour's doze because everybody else is. I work in the evening up to whatever it takes. So, and I've said that to our guys on site. If they want to actually have a sleep at lunchtime rather than a quick sandwich and a beer or a water, that's fine, and work later if it suits their family life, and it's fine.
Exactly.
But it is boiling hot in the day, and it'll get hotter. And it got to 35 here earlier in the week.
Wow.
I think last year we had a few days well over 40. So it's it gets hot, but it's the ones. I've got a new employee from the UK, and I'm making sure that he's got inside jobs because I'm soft. And as a punishment, they can go out digging. But a lot of the other guys are used to the heat. They're from Cabo Verde, and they're used to it, and they're fine doing roofing. They're wearing jumpers with the sort of t-shirt wrapped around their head when it's the high 30s. So it's more a concern for tourists, I think, and people that aren't, people that react badly to weather. But just stay cool if you can. But as Natasha said, if you're rushing around the city centre for whatever reason, you're
trying to get an appointment at AIMA, you're in trouble.
Take lots of water and work out where the loos are.
You can't do that anyway next week, which is perhaps a godsend. Yes, and to Paul's workers, please don't sleep in the rooms that have been made up for the show home. Sleep elsewhere on site, and the workers he's referring to are at ruralproperties.com. Do take a look. Paul's excellent work, rejuvenating, renovating property and society, I would say. Extend that in central Portugal, doing great work over there. You can find out more at rural-properties.com. Thanks for joining us, Paul. Much appreciated. A bon fin de semana to you both, and we'll be back again next week.
And you, and next week it'll be quite interesting to see actually how much this general strike really riles people up, or if it doesn't.
We will be back for a post-general strike special, the 12th general strike since the Carnation Revolution, to assess the results and get more excited as we edge ever closer to the World Cup and Portugal's first game in Houston, Texas on the 17th of June. Thank you very much. Take care and bye for now. Ciao, ciao. Adios.
Bye-bye. Ciao.